Bennett?
Thank you, Senator.
Hi, just a couple of questions, thank you. And I tend to ask these questions every year, but you're new for this. How are we doing on closing down or stopping the higher ed institutions that don't really educate young people, just take their money? So there have been any number of national scandals, state scandals. We moved some legislation, I guess, 2 years ago. I think it was implemented 2 years ago. And I'm just curious whether we are finding that we are actually preventing these institutions from continuing to suck money out of our student population and veterans who seem to disproportionately also get hit by these programs.
So it was in 2012, so that legislation holds those schools more accountable. We're speaking particularly of proprietary schools.
Yes, but I've gotten in trouble when I've used the term proprietary schools because some of them are perfectly fine programs, but
well,
many of them are not, so yes.
And so I want to say, I appreciate you telling me I probably just got in trouble. But I think it's important for us to know that we should have accountability for all of the schools. And the creation, a school is able to continue if they have some issues that they're trying to perfect and get better. But we have certainly strong fiscal reporting requirements and improved SED follow-up to help minimize sudden school closings, to help students who are in those schools. The whole issue really is how does SED review and streamline the approval process for the renewal of these licensed schools and make sure that they're doing everything they're supposed to. So from a perspective of where we are now, we have 399 schools that are licensed. There are 76 that are awaiting licensure. 55 are pending new and 21 are candidates for it. We have no way of knowing if there are unlicensed schools, but we believe there are fewer unlicensed schools based on the operation that we've had in decreasing the number of complaints that are coming in, because we used to receive more complaints, and I have had this conversation with Dr. Degatti about that. The tuition is collected is about $600 million annually for those schools, and it affects about 157,000 students. So the tuition reimbursement account balance is $3.6 million, and that is used to protect students by providing refunds for those students who attended licensed schools and filled out the substantiated complaints that we found to be real, that then they were given their refunds on tuition, and to protect students attending schools which have subsequently closed during their attendance, they get full tuition fees and book refunds that are made from that account should the school not be able to handle those refunds. It's within different areas of the department, so Kevin Smith with Access has been working very closely with them, and I pointed out earlier that Dr. Degatti and I had conversations with some of the deans about those schools as well, because they were getting students who were transferring over. And so it is on our page to address the issue, and as I said, there's fewer complaints coming in. We anticipate, therefore, that there's fewer schools that are running without certifications.
And do you have any specific recommendations to the legislature about what kinds of tools we could assist you with further legislation? I mean, you don't right now have any authority to follow up with unlicensed schools, is that correct?
Kevin?
Thank you, Senator. Yes, that's correct. We have a very limited resource. We're on a special revenue account. All of the resource that supports our work as the regulatory agency comes from the tuition assessment that we levy upon schools based on their gross tuition income, and that is a limited amount of money. The law is pretty specific in my mind that it does not direct us to oversee unlicensed institutions. Clearly, where there are health and safety issues, and complaints coming from unlicensed institutions through whatever source, we do all that we can to follow up on those schools. We want to better engage other law enforcement and regulatory agencies, from Consumer Protection Agency, Attorney General, et cetera, ICE, where illegal immigration is concerned, or Homeland Security is concerned, to make sure that those unlicensed institutions or licensed institutions that might be breaking the law are dealt with strongly. But since the law was passed in late 2012, I've tried to institute in the Bureau of Proprietary School Supervision stronger technical assistance and support, as the Commissioner said, better work in the bringing new schools on through candidacy or directly to make sure that they're a viable business and educational institution from the get-go. Improve at the coming in rather than afterwards.
Right.
We have reduced the number of schools significantly in that way, and the number of applications in that way.
And do you think that there has been so I'm glad to hear there's reduced complaints, so potentially the work you're doing has, resolved some of the problems for quote-unquote institutions attempting to get licenses or having licenses. But do you think there's a growth or a shrinkage in the sort of just black market school model, where they're not even trying to go for licensing?
We believe they still exist. We believe the bad actors are still out there. We are as vigilant as we can be, and again, engaging all aspects of state and city, as most schools are in the city. Law enforcement and other agencies that have responsibility in this area is an important piece of it. In particular, I think Consumer Protection Agency. These are they're illegal businesses operating in their space. So spread the responsibility, spread the oversight as best we can. I'm not resting on the reduced numbers of complaints. I think that students in our non-degree post-secondary sector, that's the preferred language, are vulnerable. They have been historically vulnerable. We want to make sure that the schools are giving them everything that those students paid for. 399 schools offering an array of allied health, cosmetology, all the way to dog grooming, which are very, very viable professions in our community, 177,000 students in last fiscal year. So there's a lot of folks out there benefiting by these programs, and we want to make sure they have integrity.
And a variation on the theme. So New York State's always been more restrictive than many states about these online universities that don't have a physical entity either in New York State or sometimes not anywhere. What's the research showing us now? Because certainly we live in a world where more and more online everything takes place. I see the TV commercials for these online universities. I'm wondering what's your experience about the patterns of, I wish it wasn't just exploitation for young people's money, but I fear it is exploitation of young people's money.
Well, one of the things that that we have really pushed for, as have the chancellors of both SUNY and CUNY, is the State Authorization Reciprocity Agreement, SARA, which will allow us to have the opportunities for our programs to work as an online institution in other places, but also those institutions outside of New York that want to come and be here to be part of the registration of that. And it's really an important thing, we believe, to have the ability to know who is out there in the online world and offering programs here, and that we can make sure that we have that involvement with licenses for them to work in New York.
So without the SARA legislation, you don't have the ability to say, you're bad, you're maybe, you're okay? How does that work?
Well, that's what it really is, that we need that legislation, and that's been proposed by both, as I said, both SUNY and CUNY and the independents. But, you know, I mean, let's face it, if you look and you watch, there are settings for K-12 students that are online, And you also see many opportunities online for post-secondary work. So it's important for us to have the ability to be part of this organization nationally.
Yes, as the internet expands and the opportunities to do different things on the internet expand, I won't disagree with you, there may be opportunities for quality education combined with actual classrooms and teachers to be a blended model. I've had lots of conversations about that, but it seems that disproportionately you see young people thinking, or not even young people, older people who never had the opportunity to get that college degree, don't see themselves going back into an institutional setting now and watching the commercials and saying, gee, that sounds like a good way to get licensed for ABC. And they get ripped off for huge amounts of money. So how will we ensure, if we go further down this road, how will we ensure that we are not somehow just falling into appearing to endorse these models?
Well, I think at least through this project, we would have the ability to know who it is that is approved through the SARA project. And then we could work with them. But you're right. I mean, as the internet expands and people go on there without checks on what in fact is a great opportunity or not, it opens up. I mean, we have, much of what we have to do is train our students to be very critical as they're going on the internet and think about what it is they're saying they're going to produce for them, and is that where we want to be?
Mm-hmm. I think these are tough issues ahead of us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator?
I think we're done, so thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
It was a pleasure and appreciate your support.
Elsa McGee, Executive Vice President, New York State Higher Education Services Corporation. She's not on the list, I can't. Yeah, they put her on, no, she asked. I didn't ask her to get the pieces of paper because we didn't know. Yes, at the rate we're going, it says 6 o'clock, so I'm about 8, we should get it. And by the way, I didn't remember the picture of someone standing next to me. Didn't have no suit on, so I knew it wasn't you in 1985. We could get a copy of it. You might remember the young person. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Chairwoman Young, Chairman Farrell, Chairwoman Glick, and members of the Senate and Assembly, thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon about the Governor's 2016-17 executive budget recommendations that impact the New York State Higher Education Services Corporation. I'm Elsa McGee, Executive Vice President and Acting President of HESC. HESC administers the New York State Tuition Assistance Program and more than 20 other student financial aid and college access programs that help students obtain and afford a college education. Collectively, these programs provide over $1 billion in awards to support the college costs of more than 360,000 students. Governor Cuomo's 2016-17 executive budget continues full support for all existing state grant and scholarship programs and proposes the DREAM Act. In addition, the executive budget reflects increased efficiencies and reduced administrative costs at HESC. The recommendations also reflect the governor's ongoing commitment to addressing the financial burden of college faced by today's students when entering and upon graduating from college. The executive budget continues funding for the innovative Get On Your Feet loan forgiveness program to assist struggling new college graduates by providing federal student loan relief to cover their monthly student loan debt for up to 2 years. Launched in December 2015, over 6,500 New Yorkers have submitted applications in the program's first 5 weeks, making it one of the strongest new program launches. In implementing the program, HESC has partnered with the U.S. Department of Education and the National Student Loan Data System to streamline the application process. It's expected that more than 7,000 students will apply for awards during state's fiscal year 2015-16, and that nearly 16,000 students will receive awards during state fiscal year 2016-17. Recognizing that the rising cost of college makes college choice more critical than ever, New York created a standard financial aid award letter for colleges and universities to provide prospective and first-time enrolling students and their families with uniform financial aid award information on the total cost of education, how much aid they will receive, how much aid they must repay, and the success of other students after graduation. In December 2015, the Department of Financial Services released the New York State Financial Aid Award Information Sheet for schools responding to prospective students looking to enroll in the 2016-17 academic year or thereafter. The New York State Financial Aid Award Information Sheet incorporates the federal model along with some additional information that is unique to the state. To aid in the implementation of the award letter, schools that are unable to make the full sheet available have been provided with an interim period financial aid award information sheet for responding to prospective applicants. The 2016-17 executive budget enables HESC to continue administering an array of programs and services that support the attainment of a college degree for all New York State students. On behalf of Governor Cuomo, HESC is pleased to play a vital role in providing New York State students with a gateway to a successful college career. Thank you, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you have.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Thank you.
Woman Glick.
In HESC's experience, what's the most effective way to inform the most vulnerable students, whether it's foster care kids or students who are immigrants, about financial aid opportunities? And are there things that we could or should be doing to increase the awareness of TAP, the various scholarship programs that would help them pay for school as they're trying to figure out if that's something they can do?
The most effective way that we found to reach the students is through the groups and individuals who have direct contact with them on a daily basis. So generally speaking, for students who are in high school, we reach out primarily through guidance counselors who work with those students and assist them with their financial aid application and information. For programs such as STEM, we've reached out to the STEP program where those students are participating in programs already, leading to science, technology, engineering, and math, or the Math and Science Master Teachers program through SUNY. We've also worked there, and then again through the counselors and the teachers.
Well, it's good to hear that there's some way that you're trying to reach students on the STEM scholarships. I wonder if there is some thought on the part of the agency to try to reach students at an earlier age. I think when you're 13 or 14, school might not be the first thing. You might be a decent student, but there are other things happening in your life, and one doesn't necessarily realize early enough the importance of doing well. So if students were to know that, and their parents, who would be in a position to urge them in the right direction, that some of these scholarships, like the STEM scholarship in particular, because you have to graduate in the top 10% of your class. In the junior year, that's already, you know, half your opportunity to do better is gone. And if you knew you had a goal, and so many young people are interested in technology and so forth, if we could reach them earlier, it might give them the motivation and incentive. Has the agency thought about that and what vehicles you might have to do that at an earlier age?
We have administer the federal Gear Up grant, which touches, right now we have a cohort of 6,000 students that we work with from beginning in the 7th grade, who will be receiving that kind of information right through their first year of college.
That's good to know. It looked as if there was a significant jump up in the allocation for STEM. Is that because you are having success in reaching students, and will that be enough?
We are seeing a year-to-year increase from the first year of the program to the second year of the program. Primarily, students are pursuing largely the science and technology fields, more so than the engineering and the math fields in the program, but we are seeing growth year to year.
We've had a lot of conversations about the difficulty people have in accessing the part-time TAP. They have to go to school full-time for a year in order to qualify. And obviously, if your issue is that you have to work or you have family concerns, your ability to access part-time TAP is almost obviated. So do you have any recommendations about what we might do to change that, or just change the structure of TAP so that it's, we've heard many instances of youngsters, the 8 semesters don't necessarily fit neatly into people's lives. So has the agency had any conversations about what changes they might recommend?
As you know, we're not a policy-making agency, so as to the policy of the program, we don't take a position, but we do know that the numbers of part-time TAP recipients are relatively low.
Does anybody call and say, is there some other way I can get access to this? I mean, you're not policymakers, but you're interacting with the public, so what do you tell them? We're not policymakers. I mean, what recommendations, suggestions, or otherwise does HESC ever provide?
Again, we administer the program as it's enacted into law, so if we recommend that people do speak with their local legislators if they're looking to have a change in the law.
You're not a policymaking operation, but you are an executive agency. So have there been any instances where someone from the second floor might ask an opinion versus a recommendation?
We have not been asked for our opinion, no, but we provide the information, the factual information again, and the demographics of the programs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Welcome, Acting President McGee. It's great to see you. I wanted to touch on something. Several schools have expressed concern regarding the implementation of the standardized financial aid award letter that was included in the budget last year. Do you feel that this issue will be addressed, and how?
This is an open, ongoing process right now, so we are in a public comment period. We have met with schools, the questions that they have raised. We have worked with the Department of Financial Services to provide FAQs to address any concerns and minimize confusion. But right now, the comments that are going into the Department of Financial Services, they will, at the end of that review period, look to address any of the concerns that have been raised by the schools.
Thank you. When is the review period expected to be completed?
I believe the open comment period expires in early March, around March 5th.
Early March, okay. And then do you think that the agencies can move swiftly to address the situation after that?
Yes, I know in working with DFS, they have heard what the schools have, issues that have been raised, so, and they would seek to address.
Great, because as you know, I mean, with the calendar and the timeline for students, that's critically important to get resolved, so thank you very much. I think the Senate is complete.
They're done. You're done. Assemblyman Lubinacci.
Good afternoon.
Just several questions I have. The first one, I know that in your testimony you did mention in terms of the proposed DREAM Act. And basically, how is your organization going to be prepared to make sure that if it goes into a policy that the students are eligible for TAP? Is there a system in place in terms of looking at eligibility requirements? Will it be harder to verify? If you could just explain that a little bit.
Well, if it were implemented, we would be working with the in concert with the administration, and we've had conversations with the Department of State, Office of New American Citizens, so to identify the best means of verifying eligibility for students.
Do you have any specifics yet in terms of how they would do it, or?
We have not at this time, no.
Okay. We've obviously heard a lot about trying to reduce the debt of recent college graduates, and basically the federal government has provided limited resources in this area in terms of refinancing options, in terms of trying to lower the overall student debt. Are there any recommendations you think that we could help do, or to make it a little bit easier for students in terms of reducing the debt burden that they have when they graduate?
On the debt that they have, we have right now, the Get On Your Feet Loan Forgiveness Program has been, again, it's a very popular program, and we see that there's a need. We have roughly 1,000 applications a week that have been coming in to help students reduce the debt if they take advantage of programs that income-driven repayment plans that are offered at the federal level. Right now, there are 3 programs that the federal government offers: the income-based repayment, the pay-as-you-earn, and a new revised pay-as-you-earn, which captures more students in that program. And then the state will step in and assist even further by reducing that amount to 0 for the 2 years out of college and for up to 2 years worth of payments.
Now, you've said that I think about 6,500 people have taken advantage so far.
You have submitted applications to date.
How many are you expecting over the next several weeks, or by the time, the next several months go on? How many people do you think
we're
will be taking?
expecting, again, that the applications will decline. We haven't seen it at this point, but we're assuming that by March, April, that we'll see fewer coming in, again, as those who have the ability to apply have already applied. But then it will spike again in June when December grads go into repayment, and spike again next November when May graduates go into repayment. So we see a cycle of spikes in the applications.
Okay. I just had one more question, and it looks like, I think beginning with the 2017-2018 academic year, FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, is going to have to be completed utilizing, I think, the tax data from the year prior to the previous tax year, so it's going to be changing a little bit. But New York, as it stands right now, in terms of TAP, is based on only the prior year. Do you think, in terms of your opinion or what you suggest to us, do you think New York law should be changed to comply with FAFSA, or do you think we should keep it separate at this point?
At this point, we are working with the administration and the Division of the Budget, who is looking at the impact of a change to prior year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator?
I think we're complete, so thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
have one more.
Okay, on the Senate side anyway.
Assemblywoman Simmons.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, Simon.
Simon.
I can't read my own writing. Didn't go to the right schools.
Ms. McGee, I have a couple of questions with regard to communications about the availability of tuition assistance programs and other financial aid programs. I noticed that your website has undergone some change recently, which I think is great. It's much more user-friendly, so I just wanted to thank you for that. It's just much, much better than it was, so thank you. But I wanted to ask a question about the availability of that information in other languages. It wasn't clear to me whether that there was a toggle for that if you needed to have the information on the website in Spanish, for example, or Chinese or another commonly spoken other language.
What we have done is we have a form that an individual will fill out if they need to receive personal information in another language. And when they contact us, we will work with we will identify someone who can interpret in the language that they need, and we will have the conversations with them. So to date, we've only had several, maybe 2 or 3 individuals who've contacted us that way, but we do work with the statewide language access program on how we make that information known and available.
So the statewide language access program is the mechanism by which students would find out about the fact that they could avail themselves of this service? I'm curious how a student would know.
From our website, when they go to our website, it should be at the bottom of each of our websites should be information on if you need to receive information in another language to contact us.
Okay. And there are a number of students with disabilities, as you know, who have different and more enhanced needs for financial aid. Is this new website now accessible to adaptive technology that a lot of these students use?
Yeah, our website has always been available for those with adaptive technology needs.
It works with screen readers and other software? Okay. And you also told us about the Get on Your Feet loan forgiveness program and the number of applications you've had. Who makes the decision as to whether or not a loan is forgiven? And do you have any idea what the time frame is for the granting of those loan forgiveness decisions?
Everyone who meets the program's eligibility requirements, which would be they graduated from a New York State high school, a New York State college, and continue to reside in New York State. If they're working, they must be working in New York State and making less than $50,000. If they meet all of those eligibility requirements and are in one of the 3 eligible federal programs, they will be eligible. No one would be denied if they meet those eligibility requirements.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.